Hello and welcome to Barron Financial Group's Responsible Guidance webinar series. This is Victor Canello, founder and principal partner at the Barron Financial Group. Today we'll be discussing personal cybersecurity, the points of exposure, prevention, and what to do if you are hacked. We're getting a lot of questions on this from clients, friends, and friends of Barron. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Craig Ewing. Mr. Ewing has had a successful career building on his experiences and developing new skills at each step along the way. Currently, he is the president of Ewing Consulting, a marketing consulting and services firm that he specializes in internet marketing and website development. He provides personal cybersecurity advice to his clients as one of the ongoing support services. Prior to this, Mr. Ewing had a distinguished career at IBM with various management positions in sales, marketing, and channels management. Craig received both his MBA and BS in engineering from Cornell University. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Victor. Today I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about personal cybersecurity. There's a definition here that talked about basically how people try to access your digital information, but we're going to talk about what you can do to protect your finances, your lifestyle, and your reputation while you're on the internet. As you might expect, personal cybersecurity is a balancing act. We're never going to go completely offline, and we're never going to go completely all in. So the more you share with people on Facebook and social media, the less privacy you have. Or the more you save passwords on your browser for history, like when you sign into Amazon, the easier it is, but it's also a little bit less secure. So to talk about personal cybersecurity, we'll focus on several points. Why you should care, what you need to know about passwords, links and clicks as you're browsing and doing your email, sharing information on the internet, how you maintain your devices, and then what you should do if you're hacked. So let's get to it. Why you should care. Well, first one is ransomware. It's been in the news recently, and the projection is it will become more and more frequent. We're finding that it's easier and easier for people to develop ransomware and send it out, so all of us need to be more vigilant. What is ransomware? It's a malware that's installed on your device that encrypts the information so you can't get access to it. You then have to pay a ransom in order to get a key to unencrypt your information so you can get back. You may have irreversible data damage so you can't get to. So to help yourself here, always have a backup of your information. The second major thing is a financial risk. People steal your information. They might be able to generate bogus credit card charges. They might be able to steal your bank accounts and the balances from those. We've heard stories of people who lose all of their savings because someone has compromised their signed-on credentials. Your social media or email accounts might be corrupted. And we found in the news as major Hollywood stars have had their email accounts corrupted and their videos and photos of themselves that they didn't want shared publicly have been put on the internet, much to their dismay. Also, the more an attacker knows about you, the more likely they are to go further and cause even more damage. The next level of damage, of course, is identity theft. When an attacker takes over your life, they can create new banking accounts in your name, create loans, mortgages, create financial havoc that may take you years to undo while distressing your credit report. And of course, they can take over your social media accounts and create an image of you that's much more embarrassing than the real you. And of course, other exposures that happen much less frequently, but are interesting. Being accused of illegal activity. There's a story of a person, the family was accused of child pornography. And as they investigated the story, they discovered that the teenage boy next door had compromised their router and was using their system for his internet browsing activities. There's another story of someone who posted their workout timing on their Facebook page, and a stalker followed that information and then met them at the gymnasium, much to their dismay. So there's real danger in not taking care of yourself. And there's four major ways to protect yourself. First major area is passwords. Strong passwords are your first defense against attackers. A good password is a balance, one that's easy enough to remember and one that's difficult enough for someone to guess. Don't use your child's name or your birth dates, because this information is easily found online and will be easily discovered. There's one story of a Hollywood superstar who used their dog's name as their password, and sure enough, their email account was hacked, much to their dismay. Longer password is the biggest predictor of how difficult it is to be hacked by somebody. The longer it is, the harder it is to remember. So perhaps use a sentence that means something to you. Here's an example. The land punched the tornado. Doesn't mean much to anybody else, but it might be something easy to reuse. Another idea is to come up with a sentence and then use the first letter of each word as your password. And here's an example of that. The more you can use symbols, uppercase, lowercase, replace letters with dollar signs, for example, the more difficult it is for someone to understand what your password might be. As life gets more and more difficult and we get more and more passwords, you might want to consider using a password manager. This is an application that goes on your smartphone or your tablet or your PC that generates passwords for you, and they're typically very long and very difficult to guess, so it makes it that much safer. Of course, the downside, if you ever lose the master password, you've also lost access to all of your passwords. Change your password often. The more important the data, the more often to change the password. It's typically recommended that you change passwords for your financial accounts every 6 months. And that can be difficult, obviously. When you finally get a password you like and you can remember, now what? Well, one approach is to create a base password that you can remember more easily. In this example, we're using Susan 621. Then you can add a prefix to that based on the account that you're using with that password. So for example, Amazon might be A Susan 621 and so on. Then all you have to do is remember the base password and add on the prefix based on your account. It works for me. Another major thing is to enable two-step authentication whenever it's available. This means you sign in with your password and your user ID, and then another password is sent to a device that you have available to you, like your smartphone or your telephone or your computer. This way, if someone steals your password and your sign-on credentials, they still can't get into your account without also having possession of your other products. So whenever you can, it's a little more difficult. It's part of that balance between security and convenience. Next major exposure we have every day are how we treat links and clicks. So this is when you get an email, there's links in email saying click here to get more information or click here to do this or whatever. Make sure you understand the authenticity of the link. For example, you may get a message from PayPal saying your account needs updating, and the link is actually to PAYE, PAL. You might not notice it, but look for it. Typically, when you hover over the link, the actual destination that you're going to shows up in the bottom of your browser or in your email application. You can make sure you're going to the right place. Don't click on questionable email attachments. That's how ransomware is typically distributed. So if you're not expecting an email attachment, you don't recognize it, don't click on it. Avoid phishing scams. We're asking for personal information. Typically, you'll get an email saying your account needs updating. Please reset your user ID and password. Remember, Social Security and Medicare don't use the email to ask you to reset your passwords. All of their communication comes through the postal mail. Threats to shut down your computer you may get every now and then typically are very questionable. Obviously, ransomware, which results from improper use of monitoring of clicking, is an exception to that. Also, don't download software from a place you're not familiar with. So you might find, hey, free, search your machine and see if you have viruses. What a great way to search your machine and install malware. So if you're not familiar with it, you don't trust it, don't click on it. And only download apps for your devices from sources that you trust, be that Google Play, iTunes, Windows.com, and so on. Just be sure that you're coming from a reputable source. Another one we tend to forget is when we're in public, the Wi-Fi that we use at Starbucks, at airports, doctors' offices, can easily be spoofed. So if you go to Starbucks, you might find an internet access called Starbucks, and you click on that and go merrily along. There might be another one called Starbucks Guest, and you don't know which is right. It's very easy for someone to create a lookalike. You then go through their computer. They can monitor all of your clicks, including user ID and password. So be very careful when you use internet access from someplace in the public. And then look for encrypted web pages when you're doing significant sensitive transactions, like purchases. The web address will be preceded by HTTPS, and most browsers will show either a lock or a word that says this is a secure website. If it's not secure with HTTPS, then it's open to the public and they can more easily intercept your passwords and user IDs and, again, hack into your life. Another major thing we work on every day is sharing our lives. The more we share, the less privacy we have. So be careful balancing that. Facebook, of course, we have all sorts of people who share every moment of their lives. You have other people who barely go to Facebook at all. So be careful what personally identifiable information you put on social media or share in the public domain. Names, addresses, where you've lived, birth dates, mother's maiden name, family members' names, Social Security, Medicare numbers, account numbers. These are all things that can be used by an attacker to go further on and get even more information. Obviously, their goal is to get money from you, to hack into your accounts, take over your finances, and make your life miserable. So hackers can use a little information to get further. How many times have you had an account where it said your password has been frozen for too many attempts? You call the call center, you can't remember your password, you're trying to reset it, and they ask you some questions. And you say, oh, my mother's maiden name is this, because the attacker got it off of the internet. Or my dog's name is this, or this is that. And you convince the person at the call center that you are the real person, and soon enough, they've corrupted your password, changed it on all your accounts, and they're on their way making your life miserable. And also when you're on social media, be vigilant. More and more we're seeing people asking to be friends or contacts on LinkedIn, and it's a spam. All they want is access to your account information so they can see who you are and follow you on the internet. So if you don't know who's asking to be your friend, don't accept it. Also, make sure you adjust your privacy settings so only your friends or people you want can see the information that you've posted. Well, one of my favorite stories years ago, I was wanted to get in contact with a college roommate that I hadn't seen in 30 years. And I knew he lived in Virginia, but that was about it. And using social media and other sources on the internet, I was able to contact his place of employment within 30 minutes. A little scary to me, but we were talking by the end of that day. So be careful what information you put out there. And another one, a picture is worth 1,000 words for an attacker. There's a lot more information in a picture than just the picture itself. And one of the famous examples of that is El Chapo Guzman, the notorious drug dealer who escaped twice from prisons in Mexico. No one knew where he was until his son posted a picture on Instagram showing the two of them together. Within a few weeks, he'd been arrested and on his way to U.S. prisons. So be careful what you put in your pictures. And in general, share only what you expect the world to know. Information will be spread intentionally or otherwise. When you're filling out forms, understand why someone needs the information on the form. Challenge to understand if they really do need it. Often doctors ask for your Social Security number. They don't need that to process your insurance claims. It just makes it easier for them if they have to collect money. So you don't have to give it, and they shouldn't be asking. If you're checking out at a cashier station in a grocery store and they ask for your zip code, they don't need that to process the transaction. So decide whether or not you want to share that. The next major area is how you manage the devices that you use. And we all use lots of them and don't even think about it. The biggest areas are personal computers, our tablets, our laptops, our smartphones. Make sure each of these is protected by a password. I heard a story recently where a friend was having marital problems, and their son came in, hacked into or opened the father's computer, took off a bunch of information that he then shared with the estranged wife, and now they're in court. Had he had a password, wouldn't have had the problem. Keep the operating systems, your applications, your browsers all up to date. As an exposure is discovered, these companies improve and update their software. On the recent ransomware attack, it was all against old versions of Microsoft Windows, not on their latest versions. Latest versions have been updated and were not able to be hacked and used for ransomware. The old versions were not up to date, or companies had chosen not to update their software, and they were exposed. Be sure you install an antivirus application. There's always things that you don't know about. They're trying to infect your computer, and that antivirus applications know about most of these, and they protect you very well. Back up your data to another device, not just to your computer, which could become corrupted, but to an external hard drive or a thumb drive or someplace else. So if you have a problem, you can still get your personal data, your bookkeeping information, and so on. Never keep your, some people say, oh, I have so many passwords, I need to have a spreadsheet, and I'll just keep it on my computer. Someone hacks your computer, they get the spreadsheet, they get access to all your bank accounts, your securities accounts, and they're on their way. And also remember that when you back up a file or a picture or something on your primary device, it may still be in the cloud at some backup service that you have. And again, this has happened repeatedly. Backup service has been corrupted, and the photos or information has been released to the public, much to people's dismay. Your home router is another device that we don't think about too much, but if someone can get in through your router, then they can get into all of your computers and other devices on there. So make sure that you have a password that you've set, not just the default, that protects your router from potential attackers. And then there's a whole category of smart devices, whether it be thermostats, security systems, webcams, personal assistants, TVs, refrigerators, and so on. Make sure you change your sign-on credentials on these devices from the defaults. You may be aware of the company that hacked into web monitors for babies and started live broadcasting the family's activities from that baby cam. Color TVs often have a camera in them, so you might want to cover that up just so it can't be hacked into. And remember that voice-activated devices like TV controllers or personal assistants are always listening. We've been assured by the manufacturers that they don't record that information in the cloud, but be aware that it's there just in case policies change. So, what should you do if you're hacked? The biggest thing is take action quickly. It can only get worse. For credit card, debit cards, financial accounts, contact the issuer immediately and request a replacement card. They can usually send it to you and you'll receive it in a few days with a different account number. You'll also prevent future charges against that account until things are cleared up. Change your password on that account and others that might possibly use the same password. Even if it's a slight variation of the password, it makes sense to change it. And then check your statements going forward to make sure there aren't unauthorized charges. Sometimes unauthorized charge is your first indication that someone has hacked into your account and is using your credit card to their benefit. If you identify, if your identity is stolen, which is the next level of destruction, again, immediately change your passwords, review your account activity, make sure no one's using your stuff, and you can contact the credit card companies and put a fraud alert on. That means that people can't create a new mortgage in your name, they can't create new loans, and they may not be able to use your credit cards. So it's a very easy process to do, and the information gets spread to lots of different organizations. So if you have your identity compromised, make sure you notify the authorities so they can stop other people from using your information. Again, replace your credit cards as soon as you can. You may need to contact the police department because if you have a severe case of personal identity theft, you may need a police report to prove that you had the problem and you're not liable for the charges. Now, this is particularly important if someone has created a loan in your name and you're trying to convince people that this isn't you, this isn't your loan, and you shouldn't have to pay it back. And on your computer and mobile devices, make sure you have antivirus software. We've talked about it. But if you don't have it, you're open to any number of threats that you'll never know about. Keep your software updated, download the latest versions of software, and change all your passwords immediately if you've been compromised. Otherwise, just do them on a regular basis every 6 months or so. Inconvenient, more secure. Back to that balancing act.
Another question I think a lot of people ask, and even myself, is how does a hacker actually get into your data, into your computer, into your information? How do they actually do that?
Good question, Victor. Well, the easiest way for a person to get money from you as an attacker is to use ransomware. They can install it on your computer and then lock up your computer and ask for money. That's the most direct way. It's the easiest. How do they get it on your computer? Frequently, it's you get an email and you click on a link, and once you click on the link, that downloads software that is installed on your computer that then goes and locks up your computer. Another one might be you visit a website and you click on an image which downloads bad software, or you go to a bad website. So that's the first way or that's the way most ransomware is installed, by you clicking on something you shouldn't be clicking on. The second big area is your password. Your password may be stolen, as it was at Target during the 2014 Christmas season. Yahoo had a data breach where many user IDs and passwords were stolen. These can then be resold to another company who will add it to other information. But once they have that information and they can figure out who you are, then they would go about trying to hack into your banking account, your securities account. Because of the sign-on information, they can go in, get into your account, change your profile information, change your mailing address, update your password, and you'll be locked out until you take some significant effort. And of course, the other thing is, once they have a little bit of information, they can use that to build upon it to get even more information to hack into more and more accounts. So the big thing is they monitor your work, your information you send out over the internet, and they take advantage of your things that you do that aren't the best hygiene for personal cybersecurity. Get your password, get your credentials, and then take over your life. So in summary, personal cybersecurity is a balancing act. Make good choices. When you choose to save a password in your browser to make it more convenient, realize you're making your life less secure. When you share information about a birthday party on social media, remember that your privacy is being compromised. Assume your information will be compromised at some point. So make choices that doesn't make it worse than it needs to be. And always be vigilant. Make sure you're not clicking on things that you don't understand, or letting other people take advantage of you as you browse the web. And utilize available tools like antivirus applications, password managers, and other things that might make your life easier. And remember, the biggest things that you can control are your passwords, how you work with links and clicks, how much information you share, and how you maintain your personal devices. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for listening, and have a great day.